crossover. We're glad you're with us. It is, as we speak, recording this, it is 5:47 on Friday morning, June 1st. And looking forward to our fourth week here. Got my brother Hayston and our good buddy John Lang with us. Guys, how you doing this morning?
Morning.
Doing well.
John, word on the street is that you've got a trivia question for us this morning.
And I'm excited to hear the answer to this. It's not a hard question, but I would be surprised if you both know the answer.
Me too.
Okay. So obviously, as you know, NBA Finals are going on right now. We'll talk a lot about that later on. But for an entire country north of us, that means the Stanley Cup Finals are going on.
Oh, wow.
Can you tell me who the two teams in the Stanley Cup Finals are?
I think I can, but I need to think about it. I'm going to let Hayston go first.
Well, let's see. There's the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I know that one. Let's see. What was the other one? Is it Tampa Bay Lightning?
It is not.
Crap. Were they somewhere around the finals?
Maybe.
John didn't research it that much.
He didn't look at it that much. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so the Golden Knights, I knew that one. I want to say the Washington Capitals.
Boom. We got it. It only
right?
took two of us, but we know hockey.
Wow. Look at us go out here knowing hockey.
Now our listeners up north can't say we never talk about hockey, because here we are.
That's right. Take our program serious, people.
That was a good one, John. That was a good trivia question. All right, hey, so you want to hit us with the scripture of the day?
Our scripture of the day brought to you by the Richmond, Missouri United Methodist Church. Open hearts, open minds, open doors comes to us from Romans chapter 5, verses 6 through 8. For while we were still helpless, at the appointed moment, Christ died for the ungodly. For rarely will someone die for a just person, though for a good person, perhaps someone might even dare to die. But God proves his own love for us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That was our scripture of the day, brought to you by the Richmond United Methodist Church. Check out our youth group Wednesday nights at 6.
Nice. Thank you, Hayston. I got to say, one thing about getting up early and doing this is that, get to watch the sunrise. And I got to say, sunrises are equally as dope as sunsets are. Way to go, God. You did it again.
I'd argue that they're more dope.
Yeah, they might be. I think you appreciate it more, maybe.
Yeah, because you have to work hard for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we get into it, there's something I gotta say, and I don't know. This is kind of just talking off the cuff here. Last week, kind of jokingly, because we don't really do anything on here that's not jokingly. One of our over-unders was over-under 29.5 Twitter followers by June 1st. And I think John and I took the under, and Hayston, being the optimist, took the over. I think we had maybe like 26 or something at the time of the recording. Well, today it's June 1st, and we have 42 Twitter followers. And I know I'm not saying that is significant, but what I'm saying is that it exceeded our expectations, and just the fact that the interest in this podcast and what we're doing is growing is completely humbling. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that, because it just boggles our minds that anybody would want to actually listen to us do this, because we're not very good at it. And I mean, why would anybody care what we think? But whenever we have a website now, you can check it out. We have links somewhere on our social media. But I kind of wrote about why we're doing this, and I think why we're doing this is just because we love talking about sports and wanted to share that joy with other people. So to everybody that listens to us and supports us, I mean, there's been some people say really nice things about us. Thank you on behalf of all of us. It's been a kind of a humbling experience to see people support us. It really means a lot. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say to that, but if not, we'll just move on.
Are you done gushing now so we can
I'm
get
done
into the
gushing
NBA
now.
Finals? Take your job seriously here, please. Come on.
I was really gushing there, but I have a lot. I'm feeling grateful, you know.
I will say I've been trying to give like a personal shout out to everybody who follows us on the Twitter page, and it has been difficult for me to keep up with everyone who's on there. So it's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. I saw this morning when I got up, 2-time state champion basketball coach Derek Petty has now liked our Facebook page. So, I mean, it's a big deal.
It is. We're really
right.
coming into our own.
We are. Okay, we got to jump into NBA Finals. Game 1 was last night, and it could not have been a better thing to talk about. Like sports media is so blessed to have J.R. Smith in the world. Let me tell you. So, Hayston, I know you watched the game. John, I know you didn't have a chance to. So, just kind of for you and also for our viewers who might have watched the game or might not have watched the game, I want to go through about the last 40 seconds of the game, give a brief synopsis of that, because I think there are some details that might get lost. So, the about 30-some seconds left, the Warriors had the ball. They were down by 2. It was like 104-102, something like that. Kevin Durant drove to the basket. LeBron James stepped in there and took a charge. And it was a called charge. And then, since it was, within the last 2 minutes or whatever the NBA rule is, they went back and reviewed it. And it got changed to a block, which it was, I mean, I understand why they call it a charge initially, just because, like, stuff happens so fast, especially in the NBA. Like, that looked like the right call. Once you slowed it down, it was very close. I mean, it could have gone either way, and I would have understood. They ended up reversing it and calling it a block. Kevin Durant made both free throws, so it was a tie ball game. LeBron James went down, got the inbounds, went down, drove the basket, and had one of the best layups I've ever seen. He went up to try to dunk it, and then it got contested, and he brought the ball down, and just before he hit the ground, he just laid it in over the rim, and it was so impressive. Just another extremely impressive LeBron thing. Then almost immediately, Steph Curry goes down to the other end. Keep in mind, Cleveland's up 2 at this point. Steph Curry goes down the other end, just, does a crazy Steph Curry thing and just makes an insane layup that he's just made seem so routine at this point. So it's a tie ball game again. Actually, he got fouled. Kevin Love came down across his head on that layup and he got fouled.
Yep, it was an and one. Yeah.
Right. I almost forgot that. And then Steph made the layup. So it was like 23 seconds left. Golden State was up 1. Okay, so they go down. I don't think they called timeout, did they, Hayston? They didn't call timeout. And so they go down. LeBron's got the ball at the top of the key. Time's winding down. I mean, he's being pretty much double-teamed, being guarded very heavily. And LeBron did something that I would never have expected. I don't know. I'm not calling LeBron a selfish player, but with 4 seconds left and down 1 point in Game 1 of the Finals, he passed it down to George Hill, which he was making a cut and he was wide open. Klay Thompson grabbed him. It was a foul. Grabbed George Hill. It was a foul. George Hill.
Kevin Love grabbed George Hill.
What?
Oh, no, never mind. You're right. Sorry.
All right. It was Klay Thompson.
Edit this out.
Yeah. I think it was Klay Thompson. Okay, so Klay Thompson fouled him with, it was 4.7 seconds left. Klay Thompson fouled George Hill. Cavs were in the bonus. George Hill goes to the line. Down 1 in Game 1 of the Finals. George Hill, it's all riding on him. And
there's like 3 seconds left at this point.
It was 4.7 seconds, I remember. And George Hill looked more scared than any other human I've ever seen in my life.
He did. He sure did.
I've never seen an NBA player look so scared to be on a basketball floor. Like, you could see the look in his face. He was like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, that was the look on his face. Like,
His eyes were bugging out of his
I know.
head.
I mean, and George Hill kind of already on his own looked like a ghost, you know? I couldn't believe how terrified he looked. And I looked at the person I was watching the game with, and I said, there's no way he makes either of these free throws. And then he makes the first one. So it's a tie game. It's tied at 107. Okay? He goes to shoot the second one. I'm like, George Hill might make it. And I found out later, George Hill's an 80% free throw shooter. I didn't know that at the time. He misses the second one. On the left block, KD is there. Kevin Durant he's on the low block. Above him is J.R. Smith. The ball bounces over to the left side. I believe J.R. Smith is 6'5". I think Kevin Durant's 6'10". J.R. Smith got the best rebound and the most important rebound of his career. I don't want people to forget that. He made the most crucial rebound of his career, grabbing that rebound over Kevin Durant. And then, out of, I don't know what, just decides to take it out to the three-point line, running away from the basket in a tie ball game. LeBron's at the top of the key, wide open. He's frantically screaming at JR to pass the ball. He passes the ball to George Hill with like 0.4 seconds left. LeBron tried to call a timeout. George Hill couldn't get a shot off. The game went into overtime. There are so many things that J.R. Smith could have done better in that moment, but he didn't know what the score was, which is just baffling for one. I mean, it was the last 2 minutes of that game were probably my two favorite minutes that I've ever watched in basketball ever. That's an over-exaggeration, but it was one of my favorite 2-minute stretches I've ever watched. It was just, it had everything. It was incredible.
Yeah, it sure did. I've never seen a final, like, few minutes, a final series of a basketball game that has been a better summary of the year. Like, if you gave a year-end report, like somebody was like, what happened in the 2017/2018 NBA season, you would be like, well, watch this last 2 minutes of game one of the NBA Finals and then overtime, and I'll tell you exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Like, exactly what happened.
I suppose it's worth mentioning that when the game went into overtime, what happened was what everybody expected to happen in this series. Golden State got hot. They just blew Cleveland out of the water. And then at the end of the game, you had some good old-fashioned NBA pettiness. Tristan Thompson got thrown out of the game. People were trash-talking. They were shoving. It was great. But, you know, Golden State ended up winning by 10 points. Sorry, Hayston, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's okay, because that's important to explain, because there's some stuff that happened there at the end of the game that's probably going to affect, like, game two, because there's probably going to be some suspensions.
Yeah,
so,
we'll see later on today, but, I would imagine so.
We'll hear later, but... and then for those people who took the prop bets out in Vegas of if somebody's going to be ejected or not, they're gonna have their answer probably later today. So, or they already got their answer last night, and if they bet on a suspension, they're probably going to have their answer later today. Anyway, so the last 2 minutes, there were like three things that I saw, and then overtime as well. I'm including that in this. So the first thing that we saw was there's been some discord between the referees and the players, and there always is that, but more so this year than any other year that I remember. Like, that's been a storyline this year, was that the referees have changed games. They've really affected the outcomes, where in the past they've really worked hard to, when there's less than 2 minutes, less than a minute left in games, they really try to, like, let the players decide the outcome. That's like what it's always been. Now, like, if there's an obvious foul or something obvious, then they always try and call it, but they definitely had a big impact in the game last night.
Absolutely.
And then the second storyline is LeBron just doing everything he can to just carry, like, he's got so much weight on his back carrying this team right now. Is unbelievable. He had 51, 8, and 8 last night.
On 59% shooting.
That is an unbelievable stat line. I think he scored like, so it's not like he was just jacking up. You know, it's not like he had Kobe Bryant scoring whatever 81-point numbers. Like, he was actually efficient too. And you just continue to see LeBron and the ineptitude of his supporting cast was brought absolutely to the forefront last night. J.R. Smith probably had the most J.R. Smith play of all time. An unbelievable rebound of a guy who's whatever, like 6'6", over a 7-foot guy with a crazy wingspan, with less than 3 seconds left by this point, has a chance to pass it to the top of the key to the greatest player in the world, who can either drive on a defense that's out of position, can shoot a three, and he's become a good three-point shooter, could have shot it himself,
baby
had
hook.
a good look. Yep, baby hook from close to the low block. I mean, he had so many options. But what happens with J.R. Smith? He doesn't know what the score is. So he thinks he's the hero, dribbles out to the top of the key as time is quickly winding down, and looks around. I'm surprised he didn't just chuck the ball out into the crowd, because he thought that he had just won the game with that rebound. That would be the only thing that would have made that better. Except I'm kind of glad that he didn't, because we got the LeBron reaction of, you freaking idiot. LeBron is got two hands just straight out from his body, shrugging, what are you doing? And by that point, the defense has recovered, because J.R. Smith wasn't even looking at the basket. He was looking at the other end of the court for a second and a half, and then LeBron's yelling at him. By the time LeBron gets his attention, you see George Hill fade into the corner, because LeBron points. He's look down there at George Hill so he can get a shot off. So we see the full ineptitude of the Cavs supporting cast last night. And then the third thing, we've seen this happen all year long, and we've seen it for the past several years. The Warriors can go on a stretch at any time. You don't know when it's going to be. It's usually whenever there's kind of organized chaos on the court. A perfect example last night was Kevin Love dove for a ball in overtime, and he didn't quite come up with the steal. The Warriors zipped the ball around the court really quick, and I think it was Klay Thompson knocked down a corner three, or maybe it was Draymond. I'm not sure, but there were kind of two plays back-to-back where Klay hit one and then Draymond hit one. That was kind of like playground basketball. And whenever you get four shooters out there, it's just, the Warriors are so dangerous in those situations. And so they can put a hurting on somebody, in a 3-minute stretch, probably no other team in NBA history has been able to do. They can go on runs like that are just absolutely unbelievable and back-breaking. So we've seen, to sum all that up, I know I've talked a lot here. To sum all that up, we've seen the Cavs supporting cast ineptitude, the referees make a call that really impacted the game that was very questionable. I really thought LeBron drew the charge on that, even when I saw it, in real time.
I might say he was there. He was there, I thought, but then he moved that right foot in, but he was already there. His right foot was maybe a little out of his body frame, but I think he was there. But yeah,
the difference though, Chandler, is that in the high school level, college level, they usually tell you've got to be set. That's not true in the NBA.
Right.
You don't have to be set. You just have to be in what they call a legal guarding position. The referees, the thing about them, though, is I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that they cannot slow the replay down. At least that's the way it used to be. They've got to watch it in real time. So it's really, I thought it was easier to see when they slowed it down than whenever they played it, boom, boom. And so anyway, then the third thing was Golden State can just bury a team, so fast. You can be playing with them. And that's why I really think that if Cleveland was going to give themselves any chance to win this series, they absolutely had to steal that game last night. And I'm pretty sure that J.R. Smith pretty much just impacted LeBron's legacy in a really negative way. And, if they had won that game last night, that would have probably shut even more critics up. But that ruined it.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in there. I think I didn't watch the game, like Chandler pointed out, but I did go back. I caught the highlights, and I watched the J.R. Smith moment, and I think it'll come to become known that
it'll be the J.R. Smith game. John, what was since you didn't watch the game and you saw that, like, what was your reaction? Like, were you just absolutely shocked like everybody else was in the moment, or were you like, I mean, it was J.R. Smith, like, what do you expect? Like, what was I want to know what your reaction was as somebody who watched it later.
By that point, I knew what happened. I knew J.R. Smith screwed up. I just needed to figure out how he screwed up.
Right.
So I was looking for an opportunity for him to screw up, and he did not disappoint.
No, he did not.
He came through in the clutch for us.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta say.
No, but I'd like to know. I mean, obviously, you know, there's always going to be the LeBron haters out there, the people that just kind of, in my opinion, undersell what he's done. It just seems crazy to me, and I want your guys' take on this, that, like, yeah, when we look back 10 years from now on this series, I think there's a decent chance they get swept. They might steal a game. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. But that LeBron's legacy will not hinge on this shot, obviously, but will be impacted by a shot that if George Hill makes a baby hook here, they win by 2.
You mean J.R. Smith?
Yeah. If J.R. Smith hits this baby hook, then LeBron's legacy's different. And that just seems crazy to me.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Yeah. You know, people always dog on LeBron's finals record. I mean, he kind of had an out for this year anyway just because his team was so bad, which is partially on him, I'll say. And, you know, the Warriors are so good. But he definitely has an out now. I mean, so here's what I think happened. Last night, it was clear that Cleveland, if they won Game 1, was going to have a chance in the series. But they had to win Game 1. They had to take advantage of Iggy being out. They had to take advantage of the Warriors' poor shooting last night. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but the Warriors can shoot considerably better. They did in overtime than they did the entire regular game. They had a chance. It was clear they were going to have a chance. Cleveland played pretty good. They shot not great outside of LeBron. Kevin Love played a pretty good game. Larry Nance had a pretty good game. Jordan Clarkson's terrible. Kyle Korver didn't shoot great. Jordan Clarkson is so bad. He's so bad at basketball.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to him.
I don't know. That's a whole nother can of worms. But pretty much, it was clear that if some things were going to go Cleveland's way, Cleveland was going to have a chance in the series, especially if they won Game 1. It went from it's going to be a competitive series, like we're going to have a series on our hands, to it's over. Like, it's over. There's no way Cleveland's going to win now. It's just not going to happen. I mean, Golden State has pretty much won the series. I think Cleveland will get another game, and it'll be a 4-1 series. But J.R. Smith single-handedly went from Cleveland's got a chance to win this series, they're going to be in it, to they have no chance. That's what happened. That sounds like an overreaction, but I
remember last year, Chandler, and I think you'll remember this. We talked about this last year. It was 3-0 in the finals. Cleveland won Game 4, and we both thought if Cleveland can win Game 5 and make it a 3-2 series, then I don't think that Golden State's going to win Game 6 or Game 7.
I think I do. Yeah, I distinctly remember that. Because we watched. Yeah, I remember we watched Game 4 together, and then I remember saying Golden State better shut the door in Game 5. You know, they better they better put them to bed, because if they do win Game 5 at Golden State, they're going to win Game 6 at Cleveland. And I think I probably said then Game 7 anything can happen. You know. Yeah. But that seemed realistic last year. This year does not seem realistic. Right.
Now, the difference is the gap's bigger. Cleveland doesn't have Kyrie. I would say Cleveland is a worse team this year than they were last year.
By far. Was Kyrie hurt last year?
No.
I don't remember.
I don't think off the top of my head he was, but I don't know. But, yeah, I think you're right. Again, without watching the game, just from hearing about it, the highlights I did watch, like, you can't, their margin for error is so small
Oh, yeah.
They can't afford to not win a game if they have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying last night, Hayston talked about Golden State just goes on those 3-minute lightning war blitzkrieg runs where you look up and you're down 20, and they didn't really do that last night. That's one thing I got to say about Cleveland's defensive effort. They did some dumb things on defense, but overall they did a pretty good job limiting the Warriors' runs, and part of that was due to the Warriors' poor shooting. But if that happens, like if Golden State gets up 20, they can't get back in it. Like we kind of saw that last night. Like I think the limits of Cleveland's deficit, ability to make up a deficit is about 7 or 8 points. Like that's what LeBron can do by himself in a stretch of a few minutes. If you get 2 stops in a row or something, you might be able to. LeBron will get some buckets and it'll be back to being a one-possession game. But I just don't think, that I can't believe how much of an opportunity they squandered because they had every chance. I mean, George Hill should have made that free throw. I mean, let's not forget that. If George Hill makes that free throw, I mean, Golden State's still got 4.5 seconds. They're going to get a good shot off. But still, I mean, I'd say your odds of winning are better than your odds of losing if you're up 1 with 4.5 seconds left. So I can't believe it. Golden State honestly, they kind of lucked out last night. They lucked out because J.R. Smith is J.R. Smith,
Yep. I'll get the final word on this if that's okay with you guys, and then we'll move on. I saw. I didn't want to say that George Hill's absolutely not to blame at all because he's an 81% career free throw shooter, and he had a perfect chance. But yeah, like we talked about earlier, he looked like he wanted nothing to do with that second free throw, and after draining the first one, he left it so short. I mean, that thing, if I'm remembering correctly, barely grazed the front of the rim. So
I think so, yeah.
Well, it had to bounce off a little bit, I guess, because J.R. Smith got the rebound like in the middle of the paint. But anyway, then the second thing was to your point, Chandler, about Golden State just burying you and you're not going to come back from that. We saw that last night. I mean, we saw a perfect example. That was overtime because Golden State hit like 3 shots in a row. And Cleveland, all of a sudden, they'd controlled the pace. They dictated tempo. I mean, LeBron pretty much had single-handedly done that. And then, all of a sudden, in overtime, they couldn't get a bucket. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but I could be wrong about this, I think that Cleveland only scored like 7 points in overtime,
7.
I think.
It was 17-7.
Yeah. So, they one of those shots, they really only scored 4 points because with, in insignificant time by that point, J.R. Smith hit a 3 finally, to bring, I think, his total for the game to 3 from 10. So, we just saw Cleveland cannot, they looked inept again in overtime. They couldn't run an offense. They were just literally fronting LeBron. Like 2 people would just stand at the top of the key when LeBron brought the ball up in overtime and just shoved him, pretty much, to keep him from getting into the paint. They were absolutely going to make somebody else beat them. So if you get LeBron with this supporting cast with their back against the wall, somebody's better say a prayer for Cleveland.
Yeah. It was last thing real quick, I thought it was hilarious that it seemed like the one shot J.R. Smith made last night was that 3 in overtime after he had just screwed everything up.
Yeah, that was totally insignificant.
Funny. Yeah, but J.R. Smith shot bad, Kyle Korver shot bad. Cleveland could have played better than they did, but Golden State could have played much better than they did. So, I mean, the gap is obvious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna for a little bit here transition away from basketball. As we mentioned, we're all from Missouri, so some big Missouri news this week. Former Governor Eric Greitens resigned Wednesday, I believe, amid several scandals and controversy. And I think what he actually ended up resigning for was the dirty campaign money thing. But whatever. Politics sucks, so we're not going to talk about politics, but we're kind of going to talk about politics. question for you guys. What Missouri athlete should be the next governor of the great state of Missouri? And I will say it can either be somebody from Missouri or somebody playing in Missouri.
I'm going to let John have the first word on this because I have a great one.
Yeah, I would normally say, somebody that would, be good for the job and actually probably do a fine job, like Frank White, who's currently serving on the Kansas City City Council.
Okay.
Former Royals second baseman, retired his number, would probably do a pretty decent job. Kind of has some job experience. But instead, I'm going to say Salvador Perez, who hardly speaks English, but, he just, it's a troubling time. It's a tough year in Missouri. People need hugs. People need cheered up, and his nickname is Sheriff Sal. He would get some danger off the streets, and, who's going to mess with a big 6'4", 250 guy that can throw a ball 90 miles an hour right on the money?
Good point.
That's a good one. My only thing with Sheriff Sal is he's kind of been the fun police this year. I don't want a governor who's going to be the fun police.
He's still doing the Gatorade buckets and things. He's still having fun. He just didn't like the White Sox. And who likes the White Sox?
Nobody. They suck. They're worse than the Royals.
Yeah, you're right.
It's amazing. Hayston, what do you think about this?
For my pick, I've got Bill Bradley, former New York Knick. He's from, I think, Crystal City, Missouri.
Wow.
And, yep. And he has run for, I believe, 3 terms as a U.S. Senator from New Jersey. And so he would be perfect for the job. He's a former athlete, NBA Hall of Famer, I believe, played all his seasons with the Knicks. And, got a ton of political experience. He's actually run for president a few times. He's never, obviously, never won, but he would be like the perfect pick.
Wow, that's a good one. I'm honestly surprised how rational we've gone so far, and I hate to disappoint the audience, but I'm also going to go fairly rational. And I once campaign, not really campaign, but I advocated this person to be president back in the 2008 election cycle. I got to go with Dustin Colquitt, Kansas City Chiefs punter. I think he would be a great governor. I don't really have a ton to back that up with, other than he's got a face that I trust, and he's consistent, and you know what you're going to get out of him, and I really appreciate that.
Yep, he also plays for Team Jesus, so that's always a good thing. But then again, Eric Greitens pretty much said that he did too, and
yeah, that's kind of what he got elected on. So
right, yeah. So that's not necessarily a foolproof thing, but
yeah,
I like Dustin Colquitt. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hayston, you might remember this for. Back in the day when Hayston was about middle school age and I was a little bit younger, our mom used to get, for his birthday, would always get tickets to a recording of the Chiefs locker room show. It was a Chiefs pregame show on one of the local TV stations that like 4 people would watch on Sundays, but they were recorded on like Wednesday or something. So we went, and each season, each year, they would have a different player who would come on and be like a co-host of the show, and then they would have a different guest who played for the Chiefs each week. And one year, Dustin Colquitt was the co-host. One year that we went, and it was during the election cycle. So I made a sign, and on one side it said Colquitt for MVP, and I pasted Dustin Colquitt's face over John McCain's face speaking at a podium, and on the other side it said Colquitt for MVP. And anyway, they saw my sign, and so during a commercial break they brought me down. And I was actually on the show, and I was absolutely terrified. Like, it might have been the closest I had to having, like, a bathroom accident at such an old age. I was absolutely mortified. And, like, you guys know me, I don't shy away from the spotlight often. But,
now here you are, the 30 people.
You typically seek it out.
That's true. I mean, I'm, like, let's be real, I'm an egomaniac. I mean, let's call it like it is. I have to have attention. So,
yeah,
but
you have a physically enormous head, and you also have a big head in the sense that you've got to have that attention. You crave it. You need it.
Yeah,
like
I do.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I just froze, and I was terrible. He asked why I thought he would be a good president, and I was like, well, I don't know. I'm like 10, Dustin Colquitt. And he said something that he would cut taxes, and he would be an honest hard worker. So, just for that, I think he'd be a good governor. So, Missouri, this is totally not how it works, but consider one of these guys for your next governor, even though it's totally not how it works. So yeah. All right, guys and gals. Now we have a special treat for you with a special guest for a segment titled "And Here's Why." What happens is a claim is made, and then it is explained with a "And here's why." I'm very happy to invite our guest on the show. He was the one that created the segment "And Here's Why." My good friend Ben Shiflett is with us. We're happy to have him. Ben, good morning.
Fellas, Grayson Allen can and will be the first ever NBA Rookie of the Year and MVP. And here's why. I've been following Grayson Allen since he was in high school at Providence School in Jacksonville, Florida. I was there for his 2012 state championship game, sitting front row watching him drop 30.
You
So
went
now,
clear down to
Grayson Allen,
Florida?
I've got three. I did. Questions at the end, please. Now I've got 3 reasons why Grayson Allen will be the first NBA Rookie of the Year and League MVP. Number 1, if you all remember, and I know you will, Grayson Allen won the McDonald's All-American Slam Dunk Contest by dunking over his future teammate, Jahlil Okafor. Now I'm just going to throw a couple names out there. You might know a few of McDonald's All-American winners. We've got Carmelo Anthony, Blake Griffin, Vince Carter, LeBron James. Now my next point, Grayson Allen recently in the NBA Combine set an outstanding record. He placed in the top 5 all-time of lane agility, running a 10.31 second.
Wow.
Now, fellas, do you know who that is faster than? That's faster than Michael Jordan. Grayson Allen is faster than Michael Jordan. Mark it down. And for my final point, now this one, it's a little off the subject, but I really think this one's going to hit home to the viewers. Statistically showing better-looking athletes perform better in professional sports. Now, I have a few examples of this. Klay Thompson to Joakim Noah. Tom Brady to Mike Glennon. Ben Shiflett to Chandler Wilson. The list goes on and on.
That hurts.
I can only give you a couple right now.
That
but
hurts.
As I said before, Grayson Allen, he's an athlete of the century, one of the best of all time. He can and will be the first ever Rookie of the Year and League MVP. Thank you.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. That hurt my pride big time, but I'm just going to keep trucking. Ben, I don't even have to do a Google search to know that it has happened at least twice in league history where a player's won Rookie of the Year and MVP. I know Wilt Chamberlain did it. I'm not sure who the other one was, but I think it's happened at least twice. So there's one problem.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Oscar Robertson. I could be wrong about that, but
that sounds right. I think it was 60s, so that would probably check out.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good company to place Grayson Allen in. Thanks for that, guys.
I'm not even gonna. I can't do it. I will say to your point about Klay Thompson being handsome, he does kind of look like that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward gets hit in the face and he becomes more handsome. That's what Klay Thompson looks like. Agree?
Couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah, so I think you're onto something there. Ben, while we have you, just wanted to hit you with a quick over-under, a segment that we're going to do later on this morning. So Grayson Allen historically has been known as kind of a dirty player. So my question for you, over under 9.5 flagrant fouls for Grayson Allen next season in the NBA. And just a side note, Charles Oakley and Ron Artest share the season flagrant foul record at 9. So over under 9.5 flagrant fouls for Grayson Allen. Ben, what says you?
Before I answer this, I'm going to stop you right there. Grayson Allen is not a dirty player. He's a hard worker and a go-getter. And sometimes people just get in his way. Sometimes people catch one of his legs. It happens to all of us. Now, to answer your question, I'm going to go with the over because Grayson Allen, he's a record. Does it in his sleep. Just when he sees a record, he's got to get it. Doesn't matter what that record is. And I'm proud of him for that.
Wow. Gosh, I don't even know what to say. Hayston, do you have any questions for Ben while we've got him?
Yeah, while we have Ben here, this is actually just to dig back at Ben because I don't think that Grayson Allen is going to pan out quite that well. He's a guy he's pretty athletic right now, but he spent a long time. He's a 4-year college player, like most of the white kids from Duke happen to be. And he, at some point, the athleticism is going to start to decline. I'm not sure he's got a steady enough jump shot to be successful in the league at 6'4" or whatever he is. So my question really to you, John and Chandler, is over or under 4.5 years that Grayson Allen is in the league before he peters around in the D-League, goes to China for a year, and then retires?
Ooh, that's a good question. Is the petering D-League and China all in that 4.5 years, or just 4.5 years in the NBA?
It's 4.5 years in the NBA.
Ooh.
I'm going to have to go with the under on that one. I think he'll spend a couple years in Des Moines playing for the Iowa Wolves, balling out with Perry Jones. But other than that, I think he'll be in there a couple months for a couple different seasons. But yeah, no.
I'm also going to take the under. I think Grayson Allen's ceiling is about where J.J. Redick is, but worse. He plays on some teams. He makes some people really mad. He never does anything that noteworthy, but he's always just kind of there making people mad. I think that's Grayson Allen's ceiling, maybe doing that for 7 or 8 years. But I don't really think that'll even happen. I think he will be a total flop. And, I'm taking the under. Ben is silent.
Fellas, I've held my tongue for too long. All of you individually are wrong. Grayson Allen has never played on a team and not been the star. Grayson Allen, if you put him on this year's Cavaliers team in the finals for LeBron James, they beat the Warriors 4-0 in the finals to get a championship.
I have no doubt.
I don't think I need to tell you guys who the finals MVP is going to be.
I don't think you do.
Kevin Perkins.
Yeah.
John, you got any questions for Ben while he's with us?
I'd really like to get his opinion on The Bachelorette. See if you got any good takes on who to bet on.
Well, fellas, I got to say, this year The Bachelorette has kind of surprised me. Fellas are coming out and they're doing all kinds of stuff, but I got to say, the guy who wore the chicken costume, hands down the best one. He will end up winning. Unless Grayson Allen makes a guest appearance, then he will probably win.
Final question for you. What would physically happen to your body, both from an emotional and psychological standpoint, if the Detroit Pistons would draft Grayson Allen and he could be reunited with his old buddy from Duke, Luke Kennard?
Oh, man, fellas, you don't even want to know. If that happened, I would cry straight for 2 weeks. Tears of joy. Be kind of like a proud dad, seeing his 2 sons join back together on a team, passing the ball around out in the yard. I can't tell you how excited I'd be. I'd probably punch a hole through my TV. Then I'd go buy a new one, along with my Luke Kennard / Grayson Allen jerseys.
Wow. Ben, we for your sake, we hope that doesn't happen, but also for your sake, we hope it does. That would be quite an exciting time. Ben, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. I think you effectively stole our show this morning, but we're okay with that. We're glad you were with us.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Well, fellas, I got to say, that was a real treat. Thanks a lot, Ben, for joining the show. We're going to go ahead and get to over-unders now and wrap up the show. Pretty good week 4 so far. That was absolutely great. So we're going to just go ahead and start with the finals over-under. LeBron's finals points per game whenever it's all said and done, whether it's 4 games, 5 games, those are really the only 2 possibilities that I think are going to pan out here. So LeBron's finals points per game at the end of the finals. The line is 37.5. Keep in mind he had 51 last night. What do you guys think?
I'm going to take the over on this one because I think that he's going to have even more performances like this, if that's somehow possible, to even just give them a shot at all to possibly make it a series.
Or win a game.
Do a little quick math.
Yeah.
Say he scored 35 the next 3 games. He would still have to score under 30 in Game 5 in order to drop his points per game below 37. So I think just his 51-point game alone, I think he'll score more than 35 the next couple games. I wouldn't be surprised if he was over 40 twice, something like that. I think he'll be over.
Yeah, I do too. This maybe wasn't a great line, but like to put it at 40 or something just seemed crazy to me. But that might have been a better line. Yeah, I early in the show I mentioned I was watching the game with somebody last night. I was actually watching it with Ben, our guest. I didn't want to mention that before we had him, but I said to him, LeBron is probably going to score 50 again in this series. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I would almost say that's a good over-under. Like, how many more times does he score 50? 0.5 the line, maybe 1.5 the line.
I just don't know how motivated he's going to be. Like LeBron, I mean, and it's understandable. I feel like he kind of has a hard time staying motivated when the going gets tough just because, I mean, his team's so bad. Like, I get it.
Oh, I would.
So it depends how motivated LeBron is. If he comes out in Game 2 and he's like, all right, I'm turning the ship around, he might score 50 again. And then if somehow they win, he might score 50 again in Game 3. It's hard telling. I mean, he's just...
On 12 shots.
On 12 shots, yeah. That's crazy. So, yeah, it's hard telling. I mean, I'm sure it'll be over. We'll kind of flip to the other side of the coin, talking about Golden State. The number of titles that the Warriors will win in the next 10 years, including this season that we're in right now, the line is 3.5. What do you guys think?
Well,
okay, yeah, I'll be honest. I look at their contract situation. All their top 6, the big 4 plus Sean Livingston and Iggy, they're all under contract this year and next year. Obviously this year, but they're all under contract for next year too. I don't think it would be a stretch at all for them to, just kind of pencil them in right now to go ahead and win next year too. So there's 2, we'll say. We've talked about it. We wouldn't be surprised if Clay left at some point. He's still on his, maybe not his rookie year deal, but he's not on his big deal yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got his big deal somewhere else. And then, we'll see. It remains to be seen what KD does. It could really go either way, in my opinion. But in order to win 4 titles in the next 10 years, I just think that's asking a lot of different factors. I think I've got to take the under just because, whether it's Steph's knees or ankles or whether, if one of those guys gets hurt of some sort, and over the next 4 years, that's definitely possible. I don't think they'll win the next 4, and once you start getting past 4 or 5 years, then you're really getting into some age and a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to have to take the under.
Yeah, it's tough.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chandler.
Okay. I don't think we could do that
gosh.
again if we tried.
No, we definitely could not. That is just a we are brothers thing right there.
Yeah. Yep, good stuff. All right, you go. I'm going last.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to agree with John and take the under on this one. Not only is the money thing a factor, even though I will say if we're all guessing Klay Thompson's going to be the first to leave, Klay, I think, by being in Golden State, has made endorsement money that he would not make had he been in with another team.
True.
You know, he's like got I'm fueled by chocolate milk. He's got that one going for him. So Klay's got a ton of endorsement deals, so maybe he doesn't, see the need to take a Supermax deal. I'm not sure. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. And then the other thing is not only are the players going to be aging a lot by then, and you're going to have health issues, like you said, there's Curry's knees, Kevin Durant's been out at times, but you've also got to think about their coach, Steve Kerr. Now, I know that people say that literally any coach pretty much could win a title with the Golden State Warriors roster as it's constructed and things like that. But that's one thing that you can say, but you don't actually know if that's true
right.
or not.
I don't necessarily agree
in theory,
with that.
yeah, they've got the most talented roster in the NBA. But at this point, it takes a special kind of person to keep it all together, and I think that Steve Kerr is the perfect person for that job because he knows how to press his players' buttons at the right times, and he knows how to be laid back whenever things don't really matter. So he's not the kind of guy, I don't feel like, that you get tired of playing for, like any more so than you would like any other person that, you've been around for, however many years. Like eventually you get to that point in relationships where, you don't bite your tongue anymore. You say what's on your mind, and eventually things like that. Like, we've seen some things out in New England with the Patriots this year that we don't typically see. Like, eventually we'll get to that point. But if Steve Kerr's not healthy, I don't know that bringing in another coach would help the situation. And he's had all those problems, like with his health and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if he can still be there for the next few years.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I hadn't really considered that. I don't know. I'm tempted to take the over because you got this year, and John, like you mentioned, you got next year. So you're looking at 2 titles in the 8 following seasons, and I think that there's a lot of factors, like you mentioned, John, with health and stuff. But I think just the way the NBA is going, it honestly, I think, hinges on what LeBron does this summer. I still think he's going to stay in Cleveland and try to get, a new team around him. But I just think, I don't know if there's really going to be anybody that can challenge that team. Sure, 3 years from now, it's not going to be the same team, but I still would be willing to say you got Steph and KD and another superstar. So with that core, I think you can still win titles. So I'm going to take the over. Just kind of, I'm tempted to, so I'm going to, just because I think the potential is there for them to have some longevity.
I think at that point they become a more, they're a team in the Western Conference, much like a lot of the other teams.
It's going to become a challenge.
If they get hot at the right time, they can, but it's not going to be a given that they get through like it has been the last couple of years.
I agree with that. All right, our last one, we're going to talk some Missouri State baseball. John, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. So today, Missouri State will be heading to the regionals in the NCAA tournament. They'll head to Oxford, Mississippi to play Ole Miss. Also in the region is Tennessee Tech and St. Louis University. So they're the 3 seed out of the 4 teams. But just, for a little bit of background, basically the regional would be like the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, the first 4 teams. It's a 64-team tournament, set up a little bit different. But, to get through this, it would be about the same thing. And then they would go to the super regionals next year for a chance to play in Omaha. So last year they won their regional in Arkansas. This year they're in Ole Miss playing Ole Miss, or they're actually going to be playing Tennessee Tech first. but it's basically a 4-team tournament. Ole Miss is the number 4 national seed, so they would be like the 4th 1 seed. So it won't be easy. Being a 3 seed would be about the same thing as being a 9 to 12 seed in the NCAA tournament for basketball.
Okay.
Just for clarification.
Good to know.
So I put the over-under. Will they win the tournament? So they're placing the regional over-under 1.5. And I said, I'm not interested in second place. You know, they're a flawed team. They're obviously not Ole Miss. They're not in the SEC. With that said, let's freaking go. Bear up. They're going to win it.
I like it. I'm also, just based on absolutely nothing, I've watched one Missouri State baseball game in my life, and that was like 3 years ago. But who cares? Mo State or no state, I'm taking the over. Let's go.
Bear up. I got the over.
All right. Thank you, John, for your insight, because I don't think anybody listening, or me and Hayston, had any idea how the NCAA baseball tournament worked. So thank you for helping us out there. Folks, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up this morning. We thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. We're going to give some shout-outs real quick. And my shout-out is going to, like I mentioned, all the people who followed us on Twitter and support us. Really means a lot, but also the microwave. The microwave has been helping people who can't cook hot meals for a long time, including me. I've microwaved thousands of Pop-Tarts, and you know, most of my hot meals come out of a microwave. So shout out to the microwave.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I'll let you finish it all out, Hayston.
All right.
So I auctioned off my shout-out last week, and I was sorely disappointed that actually, with the exception of Nicole DMing me and wanting a shout-out, and my former roommate wagering Texas, Will, there were no responses. So do better, Crossover Nation. And with that said, I'm going to give my shout-out to my dad. He is actually the only person I know that has listened to every minute of the podcast and tries to talk about it with me. So shout out to my dad. Way to go, Bruce.
Bruce is one of our greatest fans, without a doubt. He has been from the beginning, and he's been like reading stuff on our website. I will say real quick, I'm going to plug our website. We started this last week, and we're writing some articles on there. You can get the links on our Twitter page, and it's just kind of an extension of the show. We're writing just funny articles with our humor and our quirkiness and, you know, our insight. So hopefully you enjoy that. It's just another thing that hopefully you'll enjoy and we like doing. So check that out. There's links on our social media. Hayston, who you got for a shout out?
Mine is very similar to John's. I'm going with his brother, Kevin Lang, for my shout-out. Because, like Bruce, Kevin, I don't know that he's listened to every minute of all of our podcasts, but he has certainly been loyal from the beginning. He's single, right, John? Isn't that true?
He is.
He is. So, ladies, Kevin Lang, check him out. His Twitter bio says, "I was born in a small town and raised on a farm in the Midwest." Kevin's very smart. He's handsome. He's a go-getter. Ladies, he'd be a catch.
Kevbot for the win. All right. That wraps up our show, everybody. Just thanks again for listening and supporting us. We love all feedback and comments and just all the support we get.
Especially the good ones.
Yeah, especially the good ones. Just thanks for listening. We love you, Crossover Nation, and we'll catch you next time on the Crossover.